and welcome to the fourth video in my anthology series about my homebrew Dungeons & Dragons world. Let's get started. This is an anthology of Arlor, the Wildergreen. Untamed, wild, and disjointed. These are the words that best describe the Wildergreen. Originally, it was nothing but vast wilderness. Though clearly recognized as a territory within Arlor, it belongs to no single nation. Instead, it lies as a no-man's land between three separate powers: the Romal Empire to the west, the Pharos Coalition to the north, and Yalenshire to the east, with the Bronze Ocean forming its southern border. In the years following the fall of the Kraken Dominion and the rise of new nations across the world, several settlements took root across the wilds. Over time, these grew into fully independent cities, each with its own culture, traditions, and governing structure. One of the more reclusive of these is the Blooming Grove. Founded just after the Dominion's collapse, the city lies within a deep jungle valley, hidden behind a ring of sharp and jagged mountains. The valley is home to massive and rare ancient creatures. The Blooming Grove was established by a druidic circle devoted to Amrock the All-Alpha. The circle had been sent from distant lands at the time, as these beasts were being hunted to the brink of extinction. The druids, usually peaceful in their kinship with nature, became fiercely protective under their newly given divine charge. They drove out the hunters and established a sanctuary in the valley. Though it never grew to the size of the other cities of the Wildergreen, the Blooming Grove expanded steadily. Travelers came to witness the ancient creatures or aid in their protection, and yet still some came to attempt to hunt these creatures. The druids remain deeply defensive. Any who seek to harm the valley's beasts are met with swift and merciless resistance. Founded a few years later was Dulkildar. This dwarven city has risen and fallen more than once, razed during the Dominion's reign and rebuilt each time in defiance. It was once the capital of the lost dwarven territory of Beardekine, which spanned the Dragon Peaks under King Oberyn. When the Kraken Dominion and the giant kingdom of New Astoria rose around the same time, Beardekine was quickly overrun, wiped out by the giants. But Dulkildar endured, repeatedly rebuilt itself, and now stands once again, ruled by Queen Alicia. With the rediscovery of ancient subterranean roadways built beneath the mountains that once marked Beardekine's borders, Dulkildar has found prosperity. Relics from ancient outposts and long-forgotten settlements are sold to scholars and collectors, while gems and metals continue to be mined and traded across Arlor. Another city, spared entirely from both New Astoria and the Dominion's gaze, is San Lien, a wood-elven settlement hidden deep within the Black Thicket, a dense, semi-sentient jungle. Every tree, vine, and blade of grass grows from a single sacred source protected by these elves. The thicket itself helps shield the city and repel intruders. San Lien is built in harmony with the jungle. Hollowed trees form homes, branches stretch into bridges, and when the expansion is needed, the jungle responds within weeks. The city blends perfectly into its surroundings, camouflaged by living nature, and only deeper within is it more recognizable as a proper city with proper structures. While Dulkildar, San Lien, and the Blooming Grove were self-founded, one city rose from study and rediscovered technology. In the Hermetical Age, a time before the rise of the Krakens and the Giants, magic and magitech were more commonplace than ever before. Cities once floated freely through the skies, and one such city, Leifron, crashed into the Dragon Peaks during the upheaval that ended the Hermetical Age. The impact caused a massive rock slide that buried most of it. Centuries later, it was rediscovered by the reformed dwarves of Dulkildar, drawing scholars from the Federation to study the ruins. Though much of Leifron's magitech had failed, some sections were slowly reactivated. Settlers arrived to seek their fortunes in the wreckage, and now the place is known as Cloud Hall. The wizards and researchers who call Cloud Hall home have managed to reactivate several of the city's floating platforms. Now tethered to the mountain by thick cables that channel arcane energy into graviturgy engines, the city hovers miles above the ground, no longer fully flying, but suspended nonetheless. Then there is Gruzig, the last Wildergreen city founded entirely on its own terms. Once a stone giant city under New Astoria, which played a role in resisting the Dominion, but only to preserve its own power. The Dominion ruled the seas, while New Astoria held the far north and southern caps, as well as much of the northernmost continent where the Wildergreen lies. The two powers clashed for centuries, with the giants majorly being on the losing end of their conflicts. When the concordant of tides rose and ultimately brought the Dominion down, New Astoria seized the opportunity to expand. But the kingdom overreached, and the many giant subraces, long locked in rivalries, turned on each other without a shared enemy to unite them. New Astoria quickly collapsed under its own weight, with minimal interference from the concordant. Gruzig had already seceded before the fall. It aided the concordant with shelter and intelligence during the short-lived war, and it survived the aftermath. Now it stands as one of the few places where smaller mortal races can freely trade and speak with giants. Most are stone giants, though others live there as well. The final three cities, Freeport, Haven, and Ravania, began as outposts of the Romal Empire. Built along the coastline, they were part of an attempt to expand the Empire's influence into the Wildergreen. Freeport came first, intended as the main port for shipping supplies to future inland settlements. Ravania was second, built on the eastern edge of the Black Thicket just beyond the jungle's conscious reach. And over time the jungle grew around it, and with the blessing of Sanlian's elves, Ravania formed a tense but stable understanding with the thicket. Haven was the final outpost, but by then war with Corum loomed, and the Empire's resources were stretched thin. The expansion had been too fast to sustain. Supplies faltered and resentment within the settlements grew quickly. Ravania was the first to revolt, severing ties with the Empire and declaring its independence. Haven followed, being the most distant and most neglected of the three, and Freeport, long the most loyal, eventually broke away as well. The Empire attempted to reclaim the cities, but without committing to a full-scale military campaign, there was little it could do. Even the Bright Guard garrisons stationed in each city had grown tired of being left to fend for themselves. Freeport became a trade hub, thanks to its well-developed port. With the Federation, Triperitus, and Viridia nearby across the Bronze Ocean, it quickly became a favored stop for merchants and travelers heading to, or rarely from, the Empire. Haven earned a reputation as one of the safest ports in the Wildergreen. Its fleet actively patrols the bay, keeping piracy low and attracting ships seeking a secure harbor. Ravania, on the other hand, drifted towards less lawful dealings. Isolated in a hidden bay near the Black Thicket, it became nearly impossible to locate without guidance, and with help from Sanlian's elves, the entrance was magically concealed by the thicket, and Ravania transformed into a haven for pirates, smugglers, and assassins. Even before its independence, Ravania housed the Ferrymen, a feared guild of assassins devoted to Sasania of the Water's Edge, goddess of murder and assassination. After the succession, the guild became an influential part of the city's culture and politics. Though the Wildergreen remains a patchwork of independent cities, recent events have begun to unify parts of it. A discovery in Cloudhall unearthed a hermetical colossus, an ancient automated war engine. Accidentally reactivated by some less than cautious scholars, it began tearing through the northern Wildergreen, following its last directive, to destroy an elemental portal that, in ages past, had existed where Gruzig now stands. Cloudhall attempted to stop the Colossus, but to no avail. They quickly called for aid from the Blooming Grove, Dolkeldar, and even Gruzig. The Colossus was slow-moving, giving them time to coordinate with each other, and in a battle that lasted several days and drained each of their resources almost completely, they finally managed to bring down the Titanic construct, a relic from an age of war long past. That battle forged a bond between the four cities, now known as the Feyan Alliance. Since then, they've begun setting borders and building the foundation of becoming a nation of their own. They've invited the other Wildergreen cities to join, but so far those invitations have been met with either silence or mockery. Untamed, wild, and disjointed is what the Wildergreen used to be. But now a part of it has come together, tamed just a little. The rest, however, remains mostly unexplored and as wild as ever. Thank you for watching and listening to the 4th installment in my D&D Worldbuilding Anthology series. The Wildergreen played a very, very small part in my first campaign, wasn't even in my second, but I always loved the idea of a place that was like a no man's land of just wild danger with just a few places dotted around still surviving as just bastions in the chaos. And the Wildergreen has a lot of the more strange and mysterious and just dangerous creatures of my world living in it, and that always makes it a fun place to explore. So here's hoping that my players in either my 3rd current campaign or maybe in the future will explore it more thoroughly. But that will do it for this installment, so thank you again for watching and listening to this condensed history of the Wildergreen. I hope to see you in the next one.